Hello everyone, this is Money Mom. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to chat with you guys about 10 reasons we started getting fatter in the 1980s. Let's get started and talk about it. First of all, I am wearing a sweater from the 1980s. It was my beloved mother's sweater and it's from the late 80s, so I thought I would wear that today. So I'm going to share with you guys some reasons. I did a video, and I'm going to see if I can find the video and link it at the end of this one, of why we were so much thinner in the 70s. But these are some trends I happen to notice about the 1980s. There's 10 reasons why I think. I'm sure there's more than 10. A lot of them overlap. And the first two kind of go together. So I'm going to say number 1 and 2. Number 1 and 2 are both kind of mixed. People started going out to eat more, and women started going back to work, at least in our neighborhood. And because women were going back to work, they weren't at home making home-cooked meals. People weren't eating portions. So when people went out to eat, the portions of food were a lot more. There was a lot more sodium, fat, and sugar. I do think that's a lot. Some people started eating lunches out, and there were more restaurants available. When I grew up, there weren't that many restaurants, and you went out for a special occasion. Number 3, more technology. People started actually getting computers, and so they were more sedentary with the technology. I remember when some of these games came out, and I never knew how to play them, but some computer games came out, and so instead of kids being outside running around, they were playing little computer games at home. I don't know if you guys remember computer games from the 80s. Number 4, when I was young, we had a one television that everybody watched. And it was one of those with the record player. I don't know if you guys had one of those. Well, there were like 3 or 4 channels. And we didn't watch that much TV. We just watched a little bit of TV. Most everybody was outside playing, riding their bikes, gardening, visiting with neighbors. But cable TV came into play in the 80s. And a lot of people had it. So there were a lot more channels to choose from. So people relaxed more. Women, came home from work, maybe threw something together for dinner. And one of my dad said, I'm glad that, my mom wasn't out working, because a lot of the women came home and just threw a can of soup in there and served that for dinner, or went and grabbed something on the way home to eat, things like that. But so cable TV, which brings the next one, which goes along with it, people were getting less exercise. You didn't see people out except maybe on weekends. They weren't out biking or taking walks, roller skating like we used to see, gardening, all of these types of things, because our neighborhood was super quiet because many of the women were now out working. The kids were in junior high, things like that. And it was just, the whole neighborhood looked totally different. And this started, for me anyway, in the 80s, which brings me to number 6. People were just more busy with things. They were busy working. Not as many things were as structured. So people were busy. So it was kind of everything was convenience and built around convenience. Number 7, and this is huge. Growing up, we rarely had pop. Okay, we had milk or water, and of course, I'll be honest with you, we did have beer and some other types of things for, special occasions and things. But we did not have, Kool-Aid or any of that kind of stuff. We drank milk or water pretty much. Well, a lot of people started buying pop back then, and you had more sugary drinks that people were spending money on. That adds to obesity and also adds to your budget as well. So a lot more drink options were put out there. Honestly, in my opinion, many times, not in all cases, but many times, the more options we have, the more money you can spend, and with food and drink, the more obese we may become, depending on the situation. Okay, number 8, a lot of things, sugar was replaced with high fructose corn syrup because it was cheaper and made you want more. And I know you guys have seen products with that. Number 9, they were starting to upsize meals. You would go and get a meal. Like, I remember there was one place, I don't remember the name of it. People would go there for lunch. I remember it was $5. I remember this in the 80s. You would get this massive, huge baked potato. And you could have it stuffed with things. Like, they had one with taco meat. They had a chili one, things like that. And so they upsized everything. Bigger fries, bigger drinks. That was the year of upsizing. And last but not least, this is huge. There were larger clothes options. There were so many more options for us in the 80s. And there were larger clothes that you could buy. In the 70s, I couldn't be overweight. You want to know why? I couldn't go above a size 11 because that's the biggest I could get without having to go into the women's section and wear those clothing and not wear anything stylish. There weren't very many options for clothes back in the 70s, but the 80s started making clothes for larger people. That's what I've noticed anyway. Now, this is back in Minnesota. Your experience may be very different. I want to hear from you. If you were around in the 80s, what did you notice people starting to get bigger then? And what do you think were the reasons why? I want to hear from you in the comments below. That's all I have to say for now. I love you. I appreciate you. And I sure hope you come back for tomorrow morning's video. Bye-bye.